So far, we have introduced this basic structure of ideal solution, its mathematical definition, and there we have defined that in an ideal solution, the fugacity of a component species over the entire range of composition, that is Xi, is proportional to the respective mole fraction, right? That is Fi cap ID is proportional to Xi. Now there are certain simplification of this defining equation of ideal solution, that is the same equation Fi cap ID is equal to Fi naught Xi, leading to two very popular rules, laws rather. One is called the Lewis-Randall rule, another is Henry's law. So first we will be discussing these two different rules of solution thermodynamics in relation to the ideal solution. So the topic is Lewis-Randall rule and Henry's law. Right? You see, the defining equation of ideal solution is Fi cap ID is equal to Fi naught Xi. Now let's think about the simple solution. Let it be a simple solution. Right? So what is a simple solution? A solution where all component species in pure form at same temperature and pressure exist in the same physical state as that of the solution. Correct? For simple solution, see, standard state property must be the pure species property, Fi. So, Fi cap ID becomes Fi Xi. So, this is typically the LR rule, Lewis-Randall rule. Right? Now think that about the applicability of this equation in case of non-simple solution. In non-simple solution, what will happen? This Fi naught, the very definition of standard state property, is fictitious. Okay? So we have to handle it differently. And additionally, see, even for simple solution, or rather we should say that LR rule is being followed by real solution when respective Xi tending to 1, right? Respective Xi tending to 1, and we can write that Fi cap is equal to this Fi Xi. However, in the other extreme, that is Xi tending to 0, where the solution is supposed to behave ideally, LR rule seems to be invalid. right? So for the entire family of non-simple solution at infinite dilution as well as with this near purity state, the LR rule is invalid because the components, they are not existing in the same physical state as that of the solution, whereas on the other hand, see, a real solution behavior must approach to that of ideal solution at infinite dilution and near purity state, that is xi tending to 0 and xi tending to 1. Now if I am thinking of simple solution, what we observe, that Taylor rule is valid when xi is tending to 1, but even for a simple solution, when xi tends to 0, Taylor rule is invalid, right, has been established and proved to be invalid. And on the other hand, the very definition or reduction of Fi naught is equal to Fi, that is not valid for non-simple solution. So question is how to represent or how to go for these non-simple solutions ideal form and also for the ideal form of this simple solution in case of infinite dilution. So you see that what we observe, that when limit, so here our state is for simple solution with infinite dilution. We have this xi tending to 0, d Fi cap id or d Fi cap dxi, or rather we should write this Fi cap by xi, and actually in this limit the solution is ideal, so you can write that this is Fi cap id by xi. Now you see this is a 0 by 0 form because though this LR rule is invalid, however this is valid. So if this is valid, xi tending to 0 means Fi cap id is also tending to 0. So this is basically equal to 0 by 0 form. Okay? So L'Hospital is valid. So you can write that this is equal to di Fi cap id dxi at xi is equal to 0. So this derivative, the slope of this Fi cap versus xi curve when xi tends to 0 must be equal to some characteristic value of that system, right? Must be equal to some characteristic value of that, not that system, but rather that component. So we define it as Ki, and this is the Henry's law constant, right? So we write Fi cap id is equal to Ki xi. Whenever we are writing it, it becomes Henry's law. Now you see, this Ki is a component specific constant. A constant that depends on the component. So whenever we are saying it's a constant that depends on the component, we are free of the concept of standard state fugacity or pure species fugacity, etc. It's a constant. So no matter whether the very definition of fugacity, a standard state fugacity, remains valid or invalid in case of non-simple solution, this is valid because here we have actually freed that equation from the idea of standard state. So this is called the Henry's law. You see that in solving absorption problem we have studied some different form of Henry's law, what we call this P, some form that P is equal to H into this X or H into C, right? Pi is equal to Hi into Ci. Okay? That's the conventional form of Henry's law. Now what is actually the case? Why this form are different from this form? See, in case of absorption between a gas liquid interface, what is happening? Here I have Fi cap V. Now at equilibrium at this interface, here this will be this Fi cap V here, right? And Fi cap V is equal to Yi into P, right? Into phi I cap. Yi into P into phi I cap, right? Already we know that. And that's equal to Fi cap L. So we will write that Yi into phi I cap into P is equal to Fi cap L. And if the gas phase is ideal, we have phi I cap equal to 1. So Yi into P must be equal to Fi cap L, and Fi cap L according to Henry's law is Ki Xi, right? So Xi, the respective mole fractions, we know that concentration is proportional to Xi. So this is partial pressure of the component in the gas phase must be equal to some constant into Ci. So this is the tally between this form and the form of Henry's law we are proposing here from thermodynamics, right? So this is Henry's law, this is Lewis-Randall rule. Both are applicable for ideal state. Generally, this Lewis-Randall rule is being followed by real solution when we are having near purity state of that component. That means Xi is tending to 1, and this will be followed by real solution at infinite dilution. So real solution behavior in the intermediate range of Xi, where Xi is deviant from 0 and also deviant from 1, that is the intermediate range of Xi. Definitely Fi cap for real solution is not going to follow, neither it will be following this Lewis-Randall rule, nor it will follow the Henry's law. So if tentatively to get an idea, if I draw this Fi cap versus Xi plot for real solution and we compare it with Lewis-Randall rules plot and the respective plot for Henry's law, we will get some sort of curve like this. So real solution behavior. See, this may be the line for Henry's law, right, which is Fi cap ID is equal to Ki Xi. And this is the line for LR rule, right? This is a line for LR rule which states that Fi cap ID is equal to Fi Xi. Now, a real solution behavior, its line will be something like this. It will be matching with the Henry's law curve when this is Xi and this is Fi cap. So it will be matching with the Henry's law curve when Xi tends to 0 and will be tangential to this Lewis-Randall rule line when Xi tends to 1. This is 1, this is 0. So the curve is actually looks like this. Okay? So that's the curve for real solution. Right. And there is an obvious qualitative argument we can put forward here that if in a binary solution, if one component follows Lewis-Randall rule, the other must satisfy Henry's law. What does it mean? Qualitatively, we can understand and we can justify this statement that if one component is following Lewis-Randall rule, that means the solution is at near pure state with respect to that component. Okay? That is, if x1 tending to 1, then component 1 is supposed to follow Lewis-Randall rule. And when x1 is tending to 1, x2 must tend to 0. that is solution is infinitely dilute with respect to component 2, and obviously component 2 is going to satisfy Henry's law. So this idea of Lewis-Randall rule and Henry's law being satisfied by two components in a binary solution, we can mathematically also establish that statement. And this is a very popular question we have in this exam. That's what is that statement? If in a binary solution one component obeys Taylor rule, the other must satisfy Henry's law, and vice versa, of course. Right? So how we can establish that? You see, for a binary solution, Gibbs Duhem equation at constant temperature and pressure assumes the following form. What is that? x1 d mu 1 plus x2 d mu 2 equal to 0. Right? Because this mu 1 is a partial molar property. So here we can write that x1 RT d ln f1 cap plus x2 RT d ln f2 cap is equal to 0. So x1 df1 cap by f1 cap plus x2 df2 cap by f2 cap is equal to 0, as d ln x is equal to dx by x. Right? It's pretty obvious. Now if I dividing the equation by delta x1 and applying the limit delta x1 tending to 0, what we will have? We will have x1 into df1 cap dx1, right, by f1 cap, and x1 if I shift here, it will assume a form like this, plus this x2 df2 cap dx1 by f2 cap is equal to 0. Now you see this x1 plus x2 is equal to 1, so of course this dx1 is equal to minus of dx2. So combining these two forms, what we will have? We will have df1 cap dx1 divided by f1 cap by x1 is equal to df2 cap dx2 by f2 cap by x2. Okay? So this is the form on which we will substitute some, or we will actually apply some condition related to concentration, which will give you that, okay, this LR rule is being valid for one component, and let's check what will be the governing equation for the other component's fugacity. So you see that let's put a limiting condition that limit x1 tending to 0, x2 tending to 1, df1 cap dx1 by f1 cap by x1 is equal to, here it will be df2 cap dx2 divided by this f2 cap, right, as x2 is 1. So this is further simplified as df1 cap dx1 at x1 is equal to 0 divided by limit x1 tending to 0 f1 cap by x1 is equal to df2 cap dx2 at x2 is equal to 1 by f2 itself, as limit x2 tending to 1 f2 cap, the component species fugacity with near purity state, will be is equal to the pure species fugacity. It is obvious. Now if we write that, okay, what I have stated, one component obeys LR rule. So LR rule means this is equal to 1. Applying the condition, and here what we are doing, applying the condition that LR rule is followed or satisfied for component 1, right? Why it is so? Because it gives you that df2 cap dx2 at x2 is equal to 1 is f2, right? And what is LR rule? If component 2 satisfies LR rule, f2 cap is equal to f2 into x2. So df2 cap dx2, obviously LR rule is not being valid for real solution, it will be valid for in case of this maximal purity, that near purity state, that is x1 tending to 1 is equal to f2. So this is basically an alternate form of LR rule which is being satisfied, right? So if RHS is equal to 1, which means, or alternatively state or indicate that component 2 is satisfying this LR rule, so obviously component 1, this will also be equal to 1. And what does it mean? It means that limit x1 tending to 0 f1 cap by x1 is equal to this df1 cap by dx1 at x1 is equal to 0, and by definition this is equal to k1, and that's nothing but Henry's law, right? So if one component, that is component 2, here we have considered satisfying this Lewis Randall rule, component 1 we have established that it is satisfying Henry's law, and also the vice versa is true, that component 1, if it satisfies Lewis Randall, component 2 must satisfy the Henry's law. So there we have to change the limit, that x1 tending to 1 and x2 tending to 0, right? So this is the formal proof of the statement that in a binary solution, if one component obeys Lewis Randall rule, the other is going to satisfy Henry's law. So with that understanding of Henry's law, Lewis Randall rule, and the framework of ideal solution, we have to proceed towards the closure, right? And here what is the closure? Measurement or estimate of activity coefficient, right? So activity coefficient is to be measured, but there is no such direct universal equation which will give you the ready straightforward expression of this activity coefficient, okay? Unlike the fundamental expressions of this component species fugacity in gas phase or component species fugacity coefficient in gas phase, which is phi I cap. So we don't have any here. We have the definition, we have some properties of it, we have the excess property, general excess property relations, right? But we have to propose some model equation for gamma. And there are different model equations with varied range of applicability, validity and simplicity. So before going into the discussion of these models, first let's discuss and have an idea about the general trends of the gamma with x and also the excess Gibbs energies with this concentration. So you see that we have defined gamma I is equal to Fi cap divided by Fi naught into Xi, right? And mostly in process engineering we have to deal with simple systems, okay? Rarely we deal with the sodium chloride and water, except where we don't have sodium, where we have sodium chloride water, that is a brine solution, which is a typical example of non-simple solution. We don't have any this may not be the concept of the simple solution is not valid, right? So therefore sodium chloride water, the concept of simple solution is not valid, but most of the solutions we deal in process engineering are simple solution. It may be a mixture of polar and non-polar components, but still it will mostly remain simple solution. So we will proceed for this time, we will proceed for understanding this variation of gamma, right? And how it changes and what are the limiting values of gamma, etc., etc. Let's go by simple solution approach. So that's equal to Fi cap divided by Fi xi, right? Simple solution. Okay. Now limit xi tending to 1. What will be the value of gamma? So that's the limit xi tending to 1, Fi cap divided by Fi xi. That's the limit xi tending to 1, Fi cap divided by Fi, and that's equal to 1. Because Fi cap will tends to pure species property when we have a near purity state. So gamma I at xi tending to 1 is 1. Now alternatively, this gamma I, when we say that limit xi tending to 0 gamma I, and that we actually don't know, right? There is no universal value, because when xi is tending to 0, this becomes a typical 0 by 0 form, right? This will become a 0 by 0 form, and actually we know that this gamma I, or ln gamma I rather, is a partial molar property. So all partial molar property will converge to a system specific characteristic value at infinite dilution, right? So gamma I, just like ln gamma I, similarly gamma I will also approach to some characteristic value which may refer, which we can represent symbolically as gamma I superscript infinity. That is this activity coefficient at infinite dilution, right? That's basically the gamma I infinity. Next, we see that gamma I is tending to 1, and actually the respective slope, what will be the slope of d gamma I dxi whenever xi is tending to 1? That may be another interesting issue to solve. So limit xi tending to 1 d gamma I dxi, that we try to find out. So you see this gamma I, we have solved it as Fi cap divided by Fi xi. So d gamma I dxi is equal to 1 by Fi is basically independent of xi because it is a pure species property. So it will be 1 by xi d Fi cap dxi minus Fi cap by xi square. So with the limit xi tending to 1, d gamma I dxi is equal to this limit xi tending to 1 by Fi cap xi, or rather this xi tending to 1. Okay. So what we'll have? this xi will be equal to 1, this xi square will be equal to 1. So it is d fi cap dxi with xi equal to 1 minus fi cap. Now you see that this will be further 1 by fi d fi cap dxi at xi is equal to 1 minus fi itself as limit this xi tending to 1 fi cap is fi, right? And from this Lewis-Randall rule already we have got that dfi cap dxi will be simply equal to fi. So 1 by fi, so here it is also fi minus fi, so this gives you 0, right? So the fact is that the gamma I is tending towards a value of 1 and it will approach that value with a slope equal to 0. And that has been justified from the experimental results of finding gamma. Right? So, what is the result? This is say 1, 2, 3, something like that. This is x1, 0 to 1. And obviously x1 equal to 0 means x2 is equal to 1 and x1 equal to 1 means x2 equal to 0. So what is the plot? The plot is something like this. This is a plot for this ln gamma 1 for a specific system. Let me check it once. Yeah, this is a plot for gamma 1, not ln gamma 1. This is a plot for gamma 1. And this is the plot for, this is the plot for gamma 2, right? And actual data points, what we have found experimentally are like this. So nearly, this is a crude representation of MEK1 and toluene. MEK is methyl-ethyl ketone, that's a typical binary system, methyl-ethyl ketone and toluene. For this system, we can establish it. Now here arises a question that where from we are getting this experimental measurement of gamma. Though it is will be covered in this discussion of vapor liquid equilibrium in the module 3 and module 3 specifically. So actually, we must understand that we can solve for gamma 1 and gamma 2 from experimental VLE data, right? You will see I am not going into the discussion for low to moderate pressure. Fi cap V is equal to Fi cap L relation. Low to moderate pressure means pressure less than 10 bar, which is being satisfied for most of the process plant system, right? Rarely we go for distillation above and over this 10 bar pressure. So Fi cap V is equal to Fi cap L, that relation simplifies to what? Yi into P is equal to Xi into gamma I into Pi sat. Pi sat is the saturation pressure, right? So this vapor liquid equilibrium law, it's more or less universally applied unless and until high pressure duty. This is called the modified Raoult's law. Right. This will be discussed in module 3, but just I am taking an example in order to show you that how from the VLE data we can have a measurement of gamma. Okay. Now for a binary system, you see that it is y1 into p is equal to x1 into gamma 1 into p1 sat. So the VLE data means we are doing the equilibrium experiment, the vaporization experiment in a closed container. This is the liquid phase, this is the vapor phase. So we can measure the pressure and we can insert a thermometer, we can get the temperature, right? And after the system reaches equilibrium, we can take samples and can measure Xi, and we can also take the vapor sample and can measure Yi, right? So once we have this from the vapor liquid equilibrium, once we have the pressure, temperature, liquid phase composition and vapor phase composition known, we can solve for gamma 1 as Y1P divided by X1 P1 sat, and P1 sat is a function of temperature only, you know from Atwa's equation. Right? So gamma we can solve from single vapor liquid equilibrium. Similar will be the gamma 2, that is Y2P divided by X2 into P2 sat. So if I conduct this vapor liquid equilibrium experiments, right, with varied composition of the feed, or yes, with varied composition of the feed, actually we can generate the values of gamma 1 and gamma 2 over the entire range of composition from 0 to 1, right, tending to 0 to tending to 1. So we are generating some basically these value, and we know that gamma 1 will be tending to 1 when x1 is equal to 1, and here on this direction, see, we can think of gamma 2 axis in this direction. So here gamma 2 is equal to 1, this is a plot of gamma 2, it converges to the value of 1 when x2 tends to 1. So we will generate some of the experimental data, and if we fit a smooth curve through statistical regression, we can show that this is approaching towards the value of 1 with a slope equal to 0, right? So that's our basic idea about the marginal values and how the profile is tending towards this marginal value with the respective slope analysis, right? So next we will further introspect into this entire formalism, not only of gamma. Gamma we have got more or less, we have explored these properties of the gamma, right? Next we will also investigate a bit on this excess Gibbs energy, right? So marginal values of excess Gibbs energy and related functions. See, by summability relation, GE by RT, excess Gibbs energy by RT, the normalized form is x1 ln gamma 1 plus x2 ln gamma 2, right? So, if I put a limit of extreme values, marginal value, x1 tending to 0, x2 tending to 1. So, GE by RT will be equal to what? See, x1 0, so this term vanishes, x2 1, so it is ln gamma 2. So it will be limit x2 tending to 1 ln gamma 2, and eventually it will be 0. Why? Because when x2 tending to 1, gamma 2 also tends to 1, and ln of gamma 2 is equal to 0. Right? Similarly, we have limit x1 tending to 1, x2 tending to 0, GE by RT is equal to 0. Right. So in the two extreme limits, if I am thinking regarding the tentative profile of GE by RT, right, or excess Gibbs energy function, you see that it's equal to 0 at the extreme values of the domain, right? x1 equal to 0 and x1 equal to 1. Under this situation, G by RT vanishes. So once it vanishes, you see that we have a theorem in differential calculus called Rolle's theorem, which states that if Fx is continuous and continually differentiable function in the domain x of a to b, and if fa is equal to fb, then there exists at least one x is equal to zeta for which or at which the derivative vanishes, right? That is df dx at x equal to zeta equal to 0, right? What does it mean? It means this fx must be nonlinear in this domain. So and here what we are getting, G by RT is continuous and continually differentiable over the domain x1 equal to 0 to 1, and we have the marginal values, that is G by RT at x1 and G by RT at x1 equal to 1 and x1 equal to 0, both vanishes. So G by RT must passes through either a maxima or a minimum, right? At least one maxima or minimum. So we can conclude from here that G by RT versus x1 is a non-linear function, right? Which is not a good choice to model, right? We should always go for converting this function or converting the dependent variable in a form such that it always or it is tentatively linear with respect to the independent variable. Like the typical example, see, in a first order kinetics, if I want to check that whether it's totally diametrically opposite, some example, some totally orthogonal example, like if I think that I have a reaction kinetics is satisfying a first order form, then actually for first order with constant volume we know that Ca equal to Ca naught into e to the power minus kt, and from the experiment we have the data of Ca versus T, but we don't plot Ca versus T and check the means applicability of this exponential decay. Instead we plot log of Ca by Ca naught with respect to with a minus sign with respect to T, which is linear, right? Which is linear. It's expecting to be giving a linear profile. It's expected that it will give a linear profile provided the equation satisfies this first order kinetics. So here also G by RT is not a good candidate for model. We have to think of some other functions, though it cannot be directly established, but if at least we find a function where the intercepts of that function with at x1 equal to 0 and at x1 equal to 1, if these two intercepts are different, then it may be at least linear. Otherwise, if they are same just like here, it will be always nonlinear. So we will check for different intercepts of a function which we already know, and that's why we are trying to justify it. It has been documented. So here the function is, we will try with G by RT divided by x1 x2. and we will try to find out the extreme values. So it's the limit x1 tending to 0 g by rt and x2 tending to 1 g by rt divided by x1 x2. So this is limit x1 tending to 0 g by rt divided by x1. Now you see it is typically the 0 by 0 form, right? It's typically the 0 by 0 form because already we have witnessed this is 0 g by rt and x1 is obviously 0. So it's further we can write that this is x1 tending to 0 d dx1 of g by rt, and that's equal to limit x1 tending to 0 d dx1 of x1 ln gamma 1 plus x2 ln gamma 2. From summability we can actually write that. Okay. So instead of going for the direct derivative, you can go for this differential of this expression divided by dx1. So it's all the same basically. Limit x1 tending to 0. What you can write that x1 d ln gamma 1 plus x2 d ln gamma 2 plus dx1 ln gamma 1 plus dx2 ln gamma 2 dx1. So you see these first two terms, it's actually the form of Gibbs-Duhem equation. So this is equal to 0. So this is Gibbs-Duhem equation, right? So now the second term dx1 ln gamma 1 plus dx2 ln gamma 2. So it is limit x1 tending to 0 is ln gamma 1 minus ln gamma 2, as dx2 is equal to minus of dx1. Now when x1 tends to 0, definitely gamma 2 becomes 0 as limit x2 tending to 1 gamma 2 is equal to 1, right? So ln gamma 2 vanishes, and this is finally tending towards this infinite dilution property, right? So the intercept at x1 equal to 0 is ln gamma 1 infinity. Similarly, limit x1 tending to this 1 and x2 tending to 0 g by rt equal to ln gamma 2 infinity. Now you see that ln gamma 1 infinity, infinite dilution property of one component, is not at all equal to infinite dilution property of the other component. So at least we can say that intercepts of g by rt, intercepts of g by rt at x1 is equal to 0 and at x1 is equal to 1 are different. But that does not mean that the curve or this function is linear with x1, right? In order to justify that, we have to actually solve for this g by rt or determine the g by rt from again the vapor liquid equilibrium data. See, from the vapor liquid equilibrium data conducted at different initial feed composition will result in different liquid phase composition. So whenever the different liquid phase composition we are having, right, whenever we are having the different liquid phase composition, we can solve for gamma 1 and gamma 2, right? We can solve for gamma 1 and gamma 2, and this gamma 1 and gamma 2, once you know the value, then x1 ln gamma 1 plus x2 ln gamma 2 will be finally giving you g by rt. So that g by rt we have solved, then divided by x1 x2 if I plot, therefrom we can check whether it will be going to give you a linear profile or not. At least we have here established mathematically the sufficient condition which will not be actually consistent with the, or actually it is the consistent with the Rolle's theorem. If this condition is violated, then we say that there may not exist any point where the derivative vanishes. That means there is a chance that the profile is actually non-linear. Sorry, profile is actually linear. So, for different systems, the VLE data, experimental VLE data, we can, from this measurement of this GYRT, we can establish finally that this is a non-linear function, right? Just like for the same system, like methyl-ethyl ketone and toluene, the trend is something like this. This is x1, 0 to 1. So GYRT curve is this, right? This data from data of methyl-ethyl ketone component 1 and toluene component 2, right? So you see, if you plot this ln gamma 1, ln gamma 1 should vanish, right? Ln gamma 1 should vanish when x1 is tending to 1, right? So it will be a curve, or actual experimental data gives you that it will be a curve like this, and it will approach to this zero value with zero slope. So this is the profile for ln gamma 1. See, if d gamma 1 dx1 is 0 at x1 tending to 1, definitely dx1 of ln gamma 1 is also equal to 0, right? So it will be approaching this value, and this is the plot for ln gamma 2, right? And what we observe that this must be ln gamma 1 infinity and this is ln gamma 2 infinity. The experimental finding gives you that G by RT divided by x1, x2 is nearly satisfying this profile. G by RT divided by x1, x2. This is the profile for G by RT. So for many binary systems, this G by RT with respect to x1, G by RT divided with respect to x1, it's basically a nonlinear with an intermediate maxima. Here we see that there is a maximum, right, with an intermediate maxima and terminal value is equal to 0, whereas G by RT it's not having the same terminal value. Its terminal values are ln gamma 1 infinity and ln gamma 2 infinity, and that will be also being approached by the respective ln gamma 1 and ln gamma 2 curve, right? So G by RT divided by x1, x2 for a wide variety of system is close to linearity. So actually the plot is something like this. The actual data was something like this. So here it deviates, okay, close to this x1 tending to 1, or rather x1 tending to 1, and also there is certain deviation at x1 tending to 0. So overall this is linear. So this gives you an idea about the different trends and marginal values of gamma 1 and G by RT. So if I want to summarize here that what we have got about the trend, because these are important for formulating the model, that we have got the definition of gamma, we have got the summability relation. So we will be now in the next session maybe going to discuss this activity coefficient or excess Gibbs energy model. These two are identical or basically same, okay. And what will be the background? The background is G by RT is nonlinear with x1 even for the very simple close to ideal system, right? However, for many systems, many binary systems, G by RT divided by x1, x2 is close to linearity, right? Next is the marginal values of G by RT are 0 at x1 equal to 1 and x1 equal to 0. However, the marginal value of G by RT divided by x1, x2 is ln gamma 1 infinity and ln gamma 2 infinity. Now, gamma always approach a value of 1 when the respective solution is near pure solution with respect to that component. That means xi tending to 1, gamma I also tends to 1, and that value of 1 is being approached with a slope of gamma with respect to x equal to 0, right? So that's the basic idea about the gamma and G by RT trend. Now we have discussed about the ideal solution, but I haven't specified that what sort of this actual realized solution tends to that of ideal solution property. See, which one is ideal? When the solution is close to the pure species. So in a solution, this example of ideal solution, if I think about it, see how what is the representative way of mixing or going towards a solution. This 1 and 2 are two component species molecules. In pure 1 we have 1-1 interaction, in pure 2 we have 2-2 interaction. So we are mixing it up and we are generating some 1-2 interactions, right? Additionally we have also 1-1 and 2-2 interactions. But the question is, when the solution is ideal, if the interaction energy between this 1-1, let's say it is lambda 1 and here lambda 2-2 and here lambda 1, right? When lambda 1-2 is close to lambda 1-1, which is also close to lambda 2-2, the solution is ideal, right? That means in a pure species, the energetic interaction of one central molecule will be same in magnitude of the energetic interaction of the same molecule, same component species molecule in a solution, which means that 1, 2 and they are nearly, they should have close these chemical properties and close molecular weight. Okay? The typical example are the members of homologous series or more closely than solution of isomers, right? We can think of orthoxylene, metaxylene, paraxylene. Entirely it is xylene. So orthoxylene, metaxylene and paraxylene, three components, and they are having very similar interaction to each other and in the solution, of course. So that's typical example of ideal solution. We can think of solution made by two members of homologous series like ethanol and propanol, right? Then we can think of benzene, then cyclohexane. So these are benzene, cyclohexane, though they are not homologous series members, but they have got similar properties and they are they are not actually ideal, but it's close to ideality. Okay. Then there are many other examples like you see I have cited some of the examples here also. Then NXN, NF10, ethanol, propanol I have mentioned, benzene, toluene, right. Other examples are acetone, acetonitrile, nitromethane. So these are very close to this ideal solution behavior, where the interaction between component 1 in pure state and between component 2 molecules is same as that of component 1-2 interaction. So when the interaction diverges out, we have non-zero excess properties, right, and non-unit gamma. The gamma will deviate from unity. So if it deviates towards the positive side, like gamma 10 greater than 1, we will say that it is the positive deviation from ideality. And if the gamma is less than 1, we will say it is a negative deviation of ideality. So both these deviations, two types of deviations are possible. One may be positive deviation, there are examples, another may be negative deviation. So in the next session, we are going to discuss the local composition model, these activity coefficient models, the original activity coefficient models which are developed these centuries ago, right? So these are typically includes this. There are two groups basically. So we will first discuss the elementary model like Margulies model. Next we will go for Wolf's equation, then Van Laar model, and this 3-parameter Margulies model. Okay, so that's all.